So as I'm riding along, minding my own business, I get a tip from a lady on the side of the road that her homestead is essentially under siege by some not very nice dudes with guns, aiming to get their hands on her land and are threatening to kill her husband for it. Naturally, as a person attempting to get good on her, I'm doing all I can to get that little bar further into the good boy side. All that was down there was 2 wastes of fresh oxygen that somehow almost killed me. That goes to show how my luck's been going recently. The most important part here, however, wasn't the fact that some guy back there was still tied up, but the fact that after I finished looting these corpses, I only had $3.36 to my name. No wonder John's wife and son left. He can't even keep a $5 bill in his wallet. Something has to change. And the few things that we seem to be good at are stealing, killing, lying. Fighting to try to survive is what we do. So the brain started storming, and seeing as though I am not an intellectual individual, I only had a single idea for my get-rich-quick scheme, that being rob the various banks scattered around the world. Because banks are a hub for donating your money everywhere, and if your wife ever demands a gift that can go 0 to 200 in about 6 seconds flat, the bank is where you would go to get the money to buy her that weight scale that she always wanted. Sounds simple, right? I remember there being 4 settlements that had a bank around, that being Valentine, Rhodes, St. Denis, and Blackwater. Yes, you heard me right, I said St. Denis. If you pronounce it any other way, you are objectively incorrect. Valentine was closest to where I currently was, so I headed there. It's a small town, not a lot of people are around, and I'm sure they've forgiven me for that time I shot the entire population to hell. Right? With $3.36 to my name, it was time to prepare. I grabbed some extra ammunition just in case, and then took a bath because you gotta smell good while you're doing your work. Though it became apparent just how broke I was when I couldn't even afford the nice lady who offered to help clean me. I am down to 11 cents. With the pre-robbery rituals out of the way, it was time for action. Now, let me preface this by saying that conducting a solo robbery is a stupid idea, and one that you shouldn't try at home. If you do, it'll probably result in you getting shot, and I'm not going to be held liable for that. Now with that out of the way and the vault finally open, I can proceed. Now getting these safes open is a tedious process. If I had backup, this would be a lot simpler, but alas, all my backup is either dead or MIA, and these innocent bystanders were going to become little tattletales, so I just knocked them out. Despite what the game says, they are only unconscious, not being sent to the great big Wild West in the sky. By the time I finished looting all the various safes for all their riches, the cops somehow caught wind of what I was doing and stormed the bank. I guess they haven't forgiven me for my previous sins. The front door was swarming with the law, so I took the back way out, but I guess their aim assist is better than John Wick's ever was, and I was apprehended. Now all of my money is gone, they even took the 11 cents that I started with, leaving me with nothing. Never fear, all that was just one bad run. I'm a little rusty, it's been like 8 years since I've done any robbing, and to be honest, perhaps I needed a little practice before I hit the big leagues. Train tracks inevitably lead to a train, and a passenger train is a bit easier than a bank to dip my toes back into the profession. It took a bit of time, but I eventually caught up to a train, only it wasn't actually housing passengers, but rather cargo. Also, can we talk about how I completely this guy's face up? I don't believe I've had a more brutal kill than that. That was beautiful. Eventually the train just stopped, so I threw the conductor out the window and took it for a joyride. The cops were relentless in their assault on me, so I had to jump off and get out of there. I also forgot to signal for my horse to follow. About the only good thing that's happened so far is that I somehow landed in St. Denis. I wasn't planning to come here quite yet, but seeing as though I lost my method of transportation, and frankly any progress made is better than none, we're just gonna roll with it. Take 2, and we're at a different bank. But this one should theoretically have much more cash inside considering the cultural difference between here and Valentine. I feel like this guard knows what's about to happen, but he ultimately accepts it, considering either this instance happens or I shove a stick of dynamite up his ass waiting to go boom. He made a smart choice. I also noticed I had a lot less time before somebody sounded the alarm, so I had to get moving. One thing I forgot to mention is if you knock out any of the civilians sitting mortified in the main lobby, you lose 12 seconds off your timer, per civilian. Combine that with these locks having very sensitive dials, and it's just a terrible time. Also, dynamite just doesn't work apparently, and I completely ran out of time. The invasion on the bank was honestly astounding how fast it all went down, and because I lost my horse earlier, I didn't have access to my other weaponry, and well, you can imagine how the ending went down. Times are rough, ladies and gents. I lost all of my money. I can't even buy whiskey to drown out my sorrows and failures. I just needed to contemplate life a little bit. I'm so down bad right now that I can't even enter a trolley correctly without falling onto my 2 front teeth. We are out here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the face of the inferior video game protagonist. I really should have went with Arthur Morgan for this one. While leisurely riding through the city, I came across the trapper, and at this point, I was willing to try anything to turn my luck around. That includes a change of clothes. If you dislike my new look, oh well, you're not the only one who's making snide remarks and asking what in God's name I'm wearing. Life just keeps getting worse, however, when a group of bounty hunters decided to intervene when I was just trying to help out a guy who looked to be on his last legs. They chased me down, and I managed to defend myself from almost every single one of them, and then one decided to use his own horse like a battering ram, and once again I myself have been apprehended. Somehow, throughout all the bullshit, my horse was still kicking. It was here that I noticed 2 things. 1, I never actually gave my horse her own name, and 2, I have absolutely nothing to feed her. Have I really followed such a grim path that I can't even feed my own horse, let alone give it a name? She's no dinghy, but damn, I have no soul, it seems. As soon as I am able to, I'm gonna get all the food I can and name this horse Doozy. As I'm just taking a moment to appreciate what I have for once in my life, I start to hear the sound of train tracks close by. An actual passenger train just so happened to be passing by, and it was here I decided was going to turn around. I took a seat in the last car and gave it a few minutes to get further away from the city. The guard in the back was in his wild fantasy only he could conceive, and so the stick-up commenced. Everybody I encountered was doing their good deed for the day. I'm just trying to provide for my precious one, that being Doozy the Arabian horse. And to be honest, they look like that while I look like me. I wonder who's got the higher net worth here. Using the powers of the video game protagonist, I cheated my way through this encounter because I'm honestly f***ing over the never-ending forces versus just me, so I made it even. Despite a rough landing near the end, I managed to get away with roughly $80 and a couple of decently valuable accessories. Oh yes, y'all, we are so back. And the very first thing I did after petting this dog right here, because it is obligatory to pet the pupper should you ever encounter one, was drop by Pearson's little shop in Rhodes, because Pearson is a homie and he deserves my money. I purchased every piece of produce I could for Doozy and let her have a feast. This time I was not taking any chances, so almost immediately I knocked the various civilians out. No, I did not kill them, their brains are still intact. The extraction process went a lot smoother now that I had a newfound resolve and adequate timing. That certainly helped. Accidentally going past the correct number and having to turn the dial all the way around again felt like I was insulting my own skills. Not because I did it, but because I sometimes did it multiple times on the same barrier. Hey, robbing safes in a bank vault is surprisingly difficult, okay? What was peak comedy, however, was the fact that I barged out of the front door after I was done and was immediately greeted with a lawman. He quite literally stood there observing my work. There's 3 quote-unquote dead bodies in plain view, and he essentially just said, "Have a good day, sir." Also, where the f*** did this guy come from? I know I cleared that place out. Gaming is funny. I remember there being a place that had a botched bank job back in the day that had a couple of dead people that died there, so I'm going back. Last time I was there, I slaughtered the entire town, just because they pissed me off. This time, however, I just want all their money. As long as everybody pays attention and acts accordingly, nobody has to die again. Because Blackwater was a bigger town than Rhodes, I had a lot less time to get everything out of there. My plan was not going to fail like a certain Dutch Vanderlyn plan did all those years ago, though. I managed to snag all the money in the nick of time, but reinforcements were arriving fast. So before I got boxed in, I hightailed it to my horse and sped out of there. Those jackasses didn't want to take a hint though and chase after me. Everything seemed to be going all well and good for a little while. That was up until the point where they started shooting my horse just to knock me off. Nobody gets a f***ing free pass when they mess with animals like that, especially my own. Everybody I shot, I made sure went straight to hell for injuring my horse. Screw sending them to the great big whatever in the sky. This was personal. After the garbage was taken out, I ran back to Doozy to assist her up, only to find out I had no horse reviver anywhere on my person. Not only they failed in taking me out, but I also failed in protecting the one entity that stuck with me through thick and thin. I'm somewhat tempted to do I killed every NPC in Red Dead Redemption 2 Electric Boogaloo, but I had a job to do. This ain't over though. The Butcher of Blackwater will return. With, unfortunately, another horse I borrowed, I made my way back to Valentine to finish what I started. And before anyone asks, yes, I did take that bath with the added upgrade now that I had much more than 11 cents to my name. I don't know if I just had my head so far up my own ass last time or what, but the extraction process the second go around went a lot smoother. Not sure what Dutch was thinking. This place was easier to rob than Blackwater and had more money in that vault. Before anyone knew anything, I was out and on my merry way, a much richer man. I was also half tempted to shoot up the town again in vengeance, especially because somebody was bullying Uncle on my way out of there, but I desire to play poker here on occasion, and poker gets kind of boring when you're the only player at the table. Not because nobody wants to play with you, but because nobody is alive to play with you. 3 banks down, 1 more to go. Arguably the hardest one down in St. Denis. A homeless man was sitting on the road, so I decided, being the upstanding citizen that I am, to give him some money. I pressed the button to give this man money 7 times, and John Marston was just not having it. So after the 7th try, I pressed the steel coin button just to see what would happen, and lo and behold, Johnny here stole the damn quarter. He really is the inferior video game protagonist. Here we are, the final bank. One last place to rob, and then I can finally prove to my wife and son that I really don't need them to survive in this world. Time was ticking though. I only had a couple of minutes to successfully unlock these safes, grab the money, and get out of there. Though I did get some chuckles when I opened this big safe door, only to find another safe door behind it. I must have broken reality itself to be able to reach through approximately 2 inches of solid steel just to nab this cash though. That's insane. Either that or I somehow have the reality stone without knowing it. To be fair though, the cops around here apparently have powers of teleportation. I have video evidence of such, so any powers I may possess are only in fairness. The police stormed the bank fast. I knew just hiding out in the lobby like last time was just going to get me killed, and I've come too far to join Doozy 6 feet under, so the answer was hiding inside of the vault itself until I found an opening. They shot at me, I shot back, I just shot better. That's all. It became so chaotic inside when they felt it necessary to send in a damn minigun. With the amount of resources they're sending in to take me out, I guarantee they would have saved money just by letting me go on my merry way. The cost of all those bullets alone probably exceeds what was in that vault with how long dude was shooting it. The pile of bodies that accumulated in front of this door was like nothing I've ever seen. It got so bad that it became impossible to walk through it to take out that minigun, at least until I walked to the center. Locking me inside the bank was clearly someone's idea of finishing the job. It didn't work though. Eventually I got myself enough of an opportunity to get out of Dodge, but it was not without a fight. With how much it's going to cost to hire and train an entire new police force, it's really on them all the damage that was done. I was content with just taking the money from the vault, nobody dying, but no. They had to try and prevent a player-controlled character from doing what he wanted, and I still got away with all the riches. In the end, after selling everything, which included quite a few gold bars actually, I walked away with roughly $4,000, which in today's society, according to this inflation calculator, is worth over $130,000. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go find out why this dead guy I found was stuck floating in the air. Either he found some divine being that persuaded him to accept his Lord and Savior and he's on his way to heaven, or there's an invisible rock under him. I'm not sure which is the more plausible answer. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving it a like, or if you hated it, leave it a dislike. And if you haven't already, and you like what you see on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Helps me out a ton. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters for making videos like this one possible. Have a good one. Peace out.